So that was one of the most stressful 40 minutes of television that I have ever watched. And I just want to say that if those first 40 minutes are telling of what the rest of the crossover is gonna be like, then I couldn't be happy with the direction we're heading in. Because that was spectacular. It was big, it was huge, it was surprising in every way I wanted it to be. Now, I'm not very happy with the ending. Well, I mean, I hope nobody's happy with that ending, you know. If Oliver Queen is just, well, quickly enough, I'll just say, yeah, spoiler alert, huge spoilers for this whole video. But yeah, if Oliver Queen is dead, I hope nobody's happy, because he's been here since the beginning. Seeing him go is sad. But I don't want to believe that it's our Oliver Queen that's dead. If it is our Oliver Queen that's dead, if they did kill him off in the first hour of Crisis, then I am going to be a little bit annoyed. And not in a way that I'm like, oh, I miss my favorite character. I'm going to be annoyed in a way that I don't agree with what they did. I really don't think he should have been killed off that early. But I also don't think that that is our Oliver, which I'll get into later on in this video. But there's so much I want to talk about. They had cameos I didn't expect. They did things I didn't expect. I thought that I kind of knew how this part would play out due to the trailers, the teasers, the pictures we got. I was assuming that, okay, we'd probably just start picking up at seeing the heroes in various places. They'd all get taken to Earth 38, or they'd fight on Earth 38. Earth 38 would be destroyed. That would be it. And yeah, while that was a big part of the plotline, that was a decent part of what happened, there was a whole lot of twists and turns in there that they did a very good job hiding. The Star City 2046 plotline, for example, we did get a brief snippet of Lois, Brainy, and Sarah getting out of the elevator down in the Arrow bunker there and coming out, but I actually thought that was either a very destroyed version of the Earth 1 Arrow bunker, or it was going to end up being the 2040 Arrow bunker from Mia's timeline. It didn't even resonate with me that could be the Arrow bunker from Star City 2046, because we haven't seen Star City 2046. We haven't seen anything from that timeline since Legends of Tomorrow Season 1, almost 4 years ago. I think it's 4 years ago this February or this March. And that's a long time that we've seen nothing to do with that timeline. And a lot of us, myself included, assumed that was just an alternate future, but I even thought that they might actually be heading that way with the Star City 2040 stuff. I thought that last year, especially since we got the introduction of Connor Hawke and he was the same actor. We even got Grant Wilson show up. We got a bunch of things that really kind of felt like that was where they were heading. I didn't realize that was going to end up being a different Earth, which I feel like is less of a cool decision on their part and more of an attempt to clean up some timeline messes. Like, you know, if Oliver is dead, Connor Hawke isn't going to become the Green Arrow, Mia Smoke is. Obviously, that doesn't line up with the timeline they had, so they're trying to clean that up in a way. But that was something that I didn't expect to see in this episode at all. I also need to touch on the Titans cameo. Like, wow. I know that there's been a bunch of leaks talking about how Titans... There was a bunch of people saying Titans would be in it. There's a bunch of people saying they wouldn't be in it. Overall, I'd kind of settled on the opinion that they weren't going to be in it. And to be honest, they weren't really. It was just Karen Walters as Jason Todd and Alan Richardson as Arthur Curry. Makes sense, they'd do it. There's been a little bit of rumors and whatnot that the Titans cast did want to do a cameo because some of them didn't like the money they were getting offered. Other ones didn't want to be seen on the CW. Curran makes sense, he'd agree to it because he's kind of pretty fresh to acting, and it makes sense Alan would do it since he's already been on the CW. He was in Smallville as Aquaman. But also like that, they weren't actually there. That was reused footage from the original Titan Season 1 final. The version of the final that they ended up not using, they reused that. But obviously they still would have needed to get permission of the actors and permission of the Titans people to do it. Plus, in the Crisis Aftermath show that Kevin Smith did with, and they had like Mark Guggenheim on, they had Kat McNamara on, and they had Lamonia Garrett, and they had the Batwoman showrunner on it. They did talk a little bit about the various Earths that we saw, and they did confirm that that is the Earth from Titans. They also confirmed that means that Earth is destroyed, which I don't know how that works on the Titans timeline. It's kind of weird. I'm going with the mindset at the moment that Crisis happens in between Titan Season 1 and Season 2. And so Season 2 of Titans actually takes place in a timeline after Crisis, but for some reason nobody remembers it, nobody talks about it. It's kind of like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. issue with the snap, where people are like, oh, the snap happened, just nobody talks about it. I feel like that's kind of like what Titans is. The Crisis happened, just nobody talks about it. But yeah, we also got Earth 89, which was another thing that we knew we'd be getting for a while, since we saw the picture of the Michael Keaton Michael Keaton Bruce Wayne, where it says that he marries Selena Kyle. So we knew we were getting something to do with that art. I did not expect the actor for Curtis Knox, though. That was very cool. And Burt Ward and Earth 66 is another thing we've known. That was actually one of the first things we found out about this crossover, was that we were going to see Burt Ward or elements from Batman 66. Also, we saw Earth X. We saw Earth X get destroyed, and the Ray was in it very briefly. The Ray obviously doesn't die, because the tie-in comic that they're releasing that's supposed to take place between tomorrow's episode, or today's episode and tomorrow's episode, I believe that the Ray is very prominent in that comic, which means that he obviously gets maybe taken by Harbinger right before the Earth gets destroyed or something. But yeah, there's a bunch of really cool stuff like that. There were so many cool moments with the characters, like we didn't get too much big epic moments, but the moments we did get were great. Ray and Kate was a partnership that was surprisingly fun. I thought Mia was very well written this episode, much more so than most of her Arrow appearances. It just helped that she wasn't kind of getting annoyed at every little thing, and that she actually was helping Oliver. Like the moment where she shot the shadow demon that was about to hit Oliver, that was a really nice moment. Barry got very, very, very little to do, which I'm not too annoyed about, because this very much they're trying to trick us into thinking Oliver is gone. Everything that the actors are posting on their social medias is making it feel like like Steven is gone, and they hammered that home this episode with him getting kind of the most to do, besides I want to say Kara and Clark. So I feel like they're saving Barry for Barry's probably going to take over the leadership role now that Oliver's gone, or is he? But speaking of that whole Oliver thing, I think that it is Star City 2046 Oliver. I think that he took the place of our Oliver. I think that he, either through time travel or some stuff with the Monitor, our Oliver was replaced as 2046 Oliver. There's a bunch of reasons I feel like this. One reason is that well, as great as it was seeing Star City 2046 again, that came out of absolutely nowhere. They didn't really have much of a reason to bring that character back. Like, it was cool that character saved John Kent. But there's so many other characters that could have taken that place. And a lot of the characters they could have used to take that version of Oliver's place could have, I don't know, there's just a lot better characters they could have used. Like, it could have been Earth 90 Flash. It could have been Black Lightning. They could have done so many other things, and they would have worked out better, in my opinion, because it means that when these characters like Earth 90 Flash and Black Lightning show up later on, it's not going to feel as, like, sudden. If we find out that they rescued a kid that crashed on their Earth, that would be a really good way to kind of bring those characters in. But they used a character that maybe it was easier just because they had Stephen Amell there already, but they used a character we haven't seen in 4 years, and even though we had seen him 4 years ago, we saw him once ever, and he was never, ever, ever seen again, maybe referenced like twice. And this isn't even the same version of Oliver that we see in that episode of Legends, because he hasn't lost his arm yet. He hasn't met Connor Hawke yet. It's all this stuff. This is pre-Legends version of that Oliver. So it even is a little bit weirder that he'd show up just for Sarah to give him a speech about how he's a good man and about how he shouldn't blame himself for Sarah getting on the gambit. It really felt like they needed a version of Oliver to take the place of the Oliver that was going to die. But they also needed an Oliver that we'd seen before. You know, Earth X Oliver obviously can't be used. Earth 2 Oliver's dead. So I feel like they kind of looked into the books and they were like, alright, well, there's an Oliver in Star City 2046. If we easily just say that he exists on a different planet, then we could easily bring him in. Top of that, Sarah says to him that it was her destiny to get in the Queen's Gambit. She says those words, it was her destiny. When Oliver is lying on the bed and he's dying and Barry's there and all, he says to Barry that it was Oliver's destiny to die. It could just be coincidental. They could have just not realized that they were writing destiny for both characters. But I don't think so. I think that they definitely wrote it that way because they're hinting that these are the same characters. That 2046 Oliver, I don't know, maybe he dyed his hair really quickly or he put on a wig or something. You know, we know that Oliver puts on wigs a lot because that's what he did to get off Leah New. So they could totally be doing something like that, kind of trying to trick us. And that's what I feel, because I also don't feel like they would kill off Oliver Queen in the first hour of Crisis. This is the equivalent of killing off Tony Stark in that first act of Avengers Endgame. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Now, I am a little bit worried about this. Not because I'm worried Oliver's dying, or, well, he might die, he probably will die, but not necessarily, not because I'm worried that he's dead, but because I'm worried that Stephen isn't going to be in too much of the rest of the crossover. I'm really worried that this means that he might not even show up until like towards the end, until the Arrow part of the crossover, which could really suck because this is his last crossover. This is really, he needs to be in this a lot. Like, sure, he doesn't need the focus to be on him, but he started this universe, and this is the big thing they've been leading up to. He needs to be there because he's the Iron Man of this universe. And there was a great moment when he runs out of arrows and the shadow demons are all lining up to come at him, and he just stands there. He drops his bow, he clenches his fists, he does kind of a war cry, and he runs at them. Now, I'm a little bit annoyed that they also did that off screen. I feel like we should have see some of him beating up those shadow demons. But that was an amazing scene nonetheless. Seeing him run at screen, that honestly felt like I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's a very Batman move, but that's also a Green Arrow comic book move. That is straight up what Green Arrow would do. He does not give up. If he runs out of arrows, he uses his fists, he'll bite, he'll do anything he can to save as many people as he can. That run, that just screamed Green Arrow in the comics to me, and I loved it. It was possibly my favorite Oliver Queen scene that we've had in the entire Arrowverse. I thought it was perfect, and it also helps that the line right before he does that, where he says it's not time, is also one of the best Green Arrow lines we've had in the Arrowverse as well. We didn't see too much of a lot of the other characters. Ray and Sarah kind of got a couple lines each. Sarah's scene with 2046 was very nice. It was one of the better scenes we've had with her ever, I think. I did think the Lena and Alex stuff was a little bit annoying. Yeah, I get that they have a lot of beef at the moment. Lena and Alex should both be featured heavily in this crossover. It's a Supergirl episode, but the whole thing about how Lena was like, don't mistake this for friendship, and that was dumb writing, and that was their attempt to put some sort of drama into this episode where it didn't need it. It would have been so much better if they could have just kind of been not friends, but at least helping in a way that didn't require Lena to be like, oh, we're not friends every 2 minutes. It's childish. And it's not befitting of her character. It makes her character feel stupid and dumb, and it's one of the only down points I have on this episode is that. I love the montage at the start where we're going through different moments of the Arrowverse where he's like the Age of Heroes here. I did feel like it was a bit weird, a lot of the choices they picked of things to show. Like they showed the part where Sarah and Charlie were going against that big tentacle monster in Legends of Tomorrow last year. Wouldn't it not make more sense to have like a cool shot of all the legends standing together rather than Sarah and Charlie not even in their costumes, just kind of fighting a tentacle monster, especially since Charlie wasn't even in this episode. I felt like a lot, there's so much better hero shots they could have used throughout the Arrowverse over the years rather than some of the ones they did. I liked seeing Oliver with Kryptonite Arrow, I liked Barry running through the city, I liked most of the Kara shots we saw were really cool, like her fighting Lex and her holding up the plane from the pilot. Just some of them, like especially the Legends ones, I thought could have been done a lot better, or they could have used different scenes. But yeah, overall I was very, very, very pleased with the crossover. Honestly, this episode does rely on what happens next in terms of Oliver. If it turns out that Oliver is dead, or if it turns out that Stephen is barely in the crossover, then I am going to be a little bit annoyed with how this episode ended up turning out. I'm just hoping that they're kind of hiding Stephen. They were making sure he wasn't in any pictures or set photos or anything like that for the next like episode or two, but he actually is in them quite a bit, and that's my hope. Maybe they're just going to keep him to the last two parts, which would be a little bit disappointing, because you know it's Stephen Amell, he needs to be there in a big way for the final crossover. But overall this was an amazing episode. I'm not going to give it a ranking or a rating, because the crossover episodes are really hard to kind of rate, because it's like trying to give a number to the first half an hour of a 2-hour movie. Like, you can do it, but it's not, you shouldn't, because it's not it's not a good representation of what the whole movie's going to be. So I probably will just wait until all the parts are out and then kind of review the crossover as a whole and give a rating to it then. But overall, I'm very happy with how it started out. Didn't have an awful lot of problems with it. Just some of the stuff with Lena and Alex was a little bit forced and dumb, and then there was some of the stuff with Oliver that I'm a little bit iffy on. But overall, amazing start to the crossover. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, and all of that, and I hope you have an awesome day.